Okay, afternoon all. Today we're going to move on to a new subject or topic called patterns. And there's a good definition of patterns in the book that you can have a look at later if you look up the chapter on patterns when you're doing your homework. But we can think of patterns as a set of, they can be objects or pictures or numbers that continue on according to some well-defined rule. So for instance, I think it's easier to understand this when we take an example. So for instance, if we had this 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then quite often with patterns, if they're going on and on for a long time or forever, an infinite sequence, we'll say, we put 3 dots just to show etc., etc., if you like, that it carries on going this way. So this is one type of pattern, okay? And it's a pattern using numbers, not pictures, but numbers. And if we wanted to come up with some kind of a definition or a way to describe this pattern, we could say it's a pattern that starts at 2 and then continues on upwards, and we always get the next number or the next term by adding 2 to the previous one. So we add 2 to this to get to the next one, we add 2 to this to get to the next one, we add 2 to 6 to get up to 8, we add 2 to this, and so we could continue on, and we could find any of the other numbers in the pattern. So that's one type. Now this type we won't really be talking too much about today. It's the next type that we'll be talking about. And the next type we're going to talk about is more of a visual type pattern. So for instance, if we had something like this, I'm going to use some small images. So if you had a pattern of dots, just let me draw it first and then we'll, yeah, I think that's probably, okay. Hard to do this with one hand. Okay. And okay, and I'm just going to put the 3 dots here as well afterwards, just to show that even though this is more of a visual pattern, it's got these colors, these circles with different colors in them. It's still a pattern that keeps on going forever. Now, the pattern here is, if we want to describe it, it's a black circle followed by a red one, followed by a blue one, and that pattern is continued on or repeated then forever after that. So the difference, I suppose, the big difference between this and this, one of the differences, is that this we would describe as a repeating pattern. And these are the ones I'm going to concentrate on today, a repeating pattern. So what we see here, black, red, blue, repeats black, red, blue, black, red, blue, and keeps on going like that. Whereas up above, this pattern, it's always different. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There is a well-defined rule. We know it's going to, the next one's going to be 12, and then it's going to be 14. But none of these are the same as I suppose the numbers at the beginning of the pattern or at any other point in the pattern. Whereas in a repeating pattern, we can see this block here of the first 3 is the same as this block, is the same as this block of 3 colors, and it just repeats all the time. Sort of like a pattern you could have on your curtains at home or on your carpet, you know, where you see one little picture on the carpet and then it's repeated and repeated over and over again. Okay, so the next thing I think we should look at is an example of a type of question that we associate with these repeating patterns. So maybe if I take this actual pattern here and use it, and let's take an example question. So if we say in the pattern above, or maybe in the repeating pattern above, so we know we're talking about the colors here. Okay, and I'm going to go for first question is going to be, what is the next color in the pattern? So what's the next color in the pattern? So we have a certain amount and then we know it keeps going. So what is the next one that will come after blue? So the way we figure this out is, I'll just give you a second to guess yourself. I'm sure it'll be no problem to you. But we look at how the pattern has progressed beforehand. We see what's the next color after blue back here? It's black. What's the next color after blue back here? It's black. What's the next color after blue going to be over here? It's going to be black as well. So our answer the next color in the pattern here, if we were to draw it in, would be black. Okay. Our next question then, what is the 13th color in the pattern? Okay, I'll never put a question mark up here. Okay, what is the 13th color in the pattern? Okay, well, we can look at our pattern and just see how many colors we have. The first color is black, second is red, third is blue, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Now we could try and use some kind of mathematical way of figuring this out, where maybe we think in terms of numbers, or we could just keep drawing the rest of the pattern until we come to number 13. When it's small numbers like this, 13 isn't particularly big when we're talking about a repeating pattern. I think that the drawing the rest of the pattern to figure out what the 13th color is probably the best. Okay, so if we were to continue on here, we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have to draw 4 more colors to find the 13th. So we know from the first part that the next color is going to be black, because black always comes after blue. So if I draw that in, black. Then after the black, we know that what comes after black each time is always red. So we'll draw in the red. And we know after red each time is always blue, so we'll draw in a blue. Whoops. And where do we stand there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the 12th one is blue. So whatever comes after blue is going to be the 13th color. And we know that after blue is always black. So the 13th color is black. Let's just draw it in there. I'll put in my 3 dots again at the end of it just to show it keeps going after that. And our answer is, answer is the 13th color in the pattern, we said black, isn't it? One more time just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13th color is black. Okay. The next question then is going to be part 3 using this. What is the 273rd color? Oh my goodness. What is the 273rd color? And I think we'll leave out in the pattern for now. So that number is just a little bit too big for us to draw out. We could draw 273 dots, but you know what, if we were doing this in a maths test, then we probably just wouldn't have time to do all that drawing out. Or really, 273, even if we could manage that, what if they asked us, what is the 1,023rd color? There comes a point in time where the number is just too big to do any drawing, and we have to come up with some other method to figure out which the color is. Okay, so what I'd advise you to do now is just pause this for a moment and have a go and see if you can figure out what the 273rd color is, and then we'll do it together in a minute. Okay, here goes. So to find the 273rd color in a repeating pattern, what we would normally do is we'd look at how many colors or items, we'll say for instance, there are in one instance of the pattern before it starts repeating. So in this case, it repeats in blocks of 3, doesn't it? Black, red, blue, black, red, blue, black, red, blue. So it's always blocks of 3. Okay? So that's not the same for all repeating patterns. Sometimes it's blocks of 4 or blocks of 5, but just in this particular instance, it's blocks of 3 before it repeats again. So if we're looking for number 273, what we might try and find out first of all is how many blocks of 3 are there in 273 of these little circles? How many blocks of 3? So what we might do first of all is get 273 and divide it by 3 to see how many 3's there are in 273 of these circles. So 3 into 27 is 9, isn't it? 3 into 3 goes once. So there are 91 blocks of 3, but more importantly, because that doesn't really matter, the important thing from this is it goes in evenly. There are none left over. It doesn't go, if we're getting to the 273 of these, there aren't like so many blocks of 3 and then 1, or so many blocks of 3 and then 2. Since 3 divides in evenly, we have blocks of 3 when we get to 273 with none left over. So that means if the 273rd as an even number of blocks of 3 with no remainders, it means that when we get to the 273rd circle, it must be at the end of a block of 3. Okay? So for instance, in this case, the answer is blue. Now let's just look at that with a smaller number of circles. So for instance, if I asked you, what is the color of the 6th circle? Okay, if we took 6, let's just do it over here, and divide it by 3, it goes evenly, it goes twice, because 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, there's 2 groups of 3 in there. Since it goes in evenly, that means there's no extra. When we get to the 6th, we've come to the end of a pattern or a block of 3, so the 6th one must be blue. If I asked you what was the 5th one, because we can double check, or maybe let's say the 8th color, okay, if I want to know what the 8th color is, and I divide by 3 again, well 3 into 8 goes 2 times, but 3 2s are 6, 2 left over, remainder 2, okay, a remainder of 2. So if it goes in twice, it means that there's 2 whole blocks of 3, and then 2 left over, 1, 2. So the 8th one is red. Okay, so let's try that with a bigger number here. Let's say part 4. We'll say, what is the 1006th color? Okay, so if we use our formula or our method there, we take 1006 of those circles, and we see how many blocks of 3 are there in that. So divided by 3, 3 3s are 9 and 1 left over, isn't it? And 3 3s are 9 and 1 left over. And 3 into 16, 3 5s are 15, and 1 is 16. So we have a remainder, let's write it out fully, remainder 1, isn't it? So if we had 1006 circles, there would be 335 blocks of 3, these blocks of 3, and then there'd be an extra 1 as well. So if we had so many blocks of 3 and then an extra 1, it means after the last block of 3, the next one would be black. So our answer, what is the 1006th color? Our answer is black. Okay, so have a go at that a few times if you like, using this above here. Now the important thing to remember is when you're doing your homework tonight, if there are, for instance, 3 of these in each block before it repeats, then you'll be dividing by 3. If this happened to be something that had 4 colors in it, so for instance, if there was an extra one, an orange, where are we here, isn't it? Orange. Then you would have to be dividing by 4 down here, because each block would have 4 items in it before the pattern repeated again. Okay, so have a go at, from the textbook, have a go at page 230, question 4 and question 5 to write now and to finish for homework. Thanks.